Alright, good news, we're back. Also good news, the last autosave was before we launched, which is a whole lot better than when the autosave is right before right in the middle of your descent. So you're trying to figure out, okay, I've got 15 seconds to figure out where my descent needs to be because I'm about to hit my I forget what it's called. I think it's called the suicide burn point, where you have to burn. If you don't burn at full throttle at that point, you're going to hit too hard. So, let's see. Oh, apparently we do have data from all of that. And Jeb does backflip. So, I'm thinking all these crashes and whatnot are being caused by either Ferrum or B9, Ferrum or B9 or both. If that's the case, what I will end up doing is pulling both of those, and pulling the plugin component of the mods. I'll keep the parts if I can. And if not, then I'll just kind of have to deal with the crashes. But I wonder if it's a memory issue. Yeah, it probably is a memory issue. I just pulled it up now. 3,330 megs on KSP, the KSP application. So I will keep that up and hopefully catch it right before it crashes. If that's the case, then I should actually just be able to go in there with a texture reducer, part reducer thingy, something that makes it use a lot less memory. So anyway, back to this that we were doing. All the science is scooped up, all the other stuff is scooped up. Alright. There's that. There's the turn. Okay, that was easy. So that's one of the, this is why I love Minmus so much. So easy to get off of it. Okay, so create and execute. So unfortunately, it's looking very well. I do actually have some ridiculous amount of delta V. What I will try to do is get, and even if I did, I've already used all my experiments. Once I get the transfer back, try to equalize out all the fuel and see if I can recover as much of this vessel as I can. I do have in an emergency, I do have a secondary heat shield attached to decoupler, attached to the crew capsule. So worst comes to worst, I dump everything else, and Jeb makes it back. Okay, so that is now circularized. Next is return from a moon. Approximate final periapse, which is never right. Let's go ahead and create that node. Right. Let's remove that one and put this at, let's see, orbital velocity is going to be 34 to 36, which means that you can come in at 35 to 37 kilometers, so we need to put in 45. It's still too high, so let's put in 30. Oh, yeah, just go ahead and run that. So 160 meters a second delta V to return, which is relatively trivial, all things considered. I think the inclination change from Kerbal to Minmus is 230 to 240, depending on how good you are with getting everything lined up. Okay, food and everything is good, oxygen's good, snacks are good. And oops. Okay. So that's good, and remove all nodes. Go ahead and warp to that transition. So we're bringing back, I'm thinking between 800 and 2000 science. I'm not, actually it's probably between 1200 and 2000 science. Okay, just that we don't accidentally warp too fast. To perhaps is a little bit too low, so let's change this to 37. We're going to change that as soon as possible. And now that we're down to only a couple of tons, maneuverability increases dramatically. Okay, so that's the fun and exciting bit done. Next bit is transferring 45. I do not have enough fuel to do that. So next is going to be transferring the center tank into the external tanks. And after that, there will be some landing involved. So the total delta V is not, the total delta V of this stage is not going to change. However, because these are identical engines, I do have twice as much fuel, or twice as much duration on the internal tank as I do at the external tanks now, instead of having it significantly higher. What that means is I'll have a larger amount, I'll have better braking in the upper atmosphere if I do it this way. So let's go ahead and retract the legs, and I am on a 4-day, 4.5 day orbital period. Let's see if we can bring this down a little bit. So let's warp to periaps, 3 minutes. So this will just help avoid any wacky physics, time warping through planets and whatnot. So at this point, it really doesn't matter where I come down. The way I planned the first, realistically the first 2 or 3 Minmus missions, I've got enough food to get me there and get me back, and that's about it. If I miss my first orbit, I've got to get out on the second one, and it's got to be a direct descent. which is very, very risky with deadly reentry. So, unfortunately, with the it probably won't matter by the time anyone sees this, but with the assorted amounts of crashes and other editing and stuff that I need to do with dealing with the crashes, it's looking like I might upload these as separate 20-minute pieces, and then just kind of upload everything. So it would end up being 3 videos, but it would be an hour long, instead of having 2 videos, which would be an hour long. Upside for me, if my browser ends up crashing on me, it's potentially 100 to 200 megs of stuff that's already safely uploaded, instead of things I would have to upload again. So more upload time for me means more video time that I can upload for everyone else to enjoy. So, with that said and done, let's go ahead and time warp into the atmosphere. Okay, so we had just under 4.5 day orbital period. If I can knock this down to about an hour, that would be great. If I can knock it down to a day, that would actually be ideal. Then I can change the inclination and apoapse and get everything so I can have possibly a better landing target. This like strange inclined thing just kind of stinks. So periapse is slowly coming down. And this is why I transferred all the fuel around, because if I need to, I can always just slam on the brakes, as it were. And these things are up to 600, 7, 8. Come on. Perhaps it's still 20-something seconds away. So I think these things overheat at 1200-ish. This is going to be close. And apoapse is still in millions. Temperature 11, almost 1200. Time to periapse is done. Okay. So things are cooling off. So this, everyone, is what is known as aerobraking. Hit the atmosphere relatively high up, and you end up slowing down from a almost 4.5 day orbital period to, well, I'm already down to under an hour and a half. And of course, with the engines going first, they are very heat resistant, of course. So ideally, if you're going to be doing this, that is as low as you'd want to go for anything, basically either of the Kerbal moons. Any deeper, and you're going to actually start to overheat and start to lose parts of your craft. Anything interplanetary, you're going to want to go up about another 10 kilometers vertical. Otherwise, you will basically incinerate your craft. Okay, and orbital period is under an hour, so we lost, call it 35 minutes, just on the ascent from periapse. And we still have 1200 meters a second atmospheric delta V, so we can almost land this thing from orbit, but that's always risky. Okay, altitude is still climbing. So it looks like we're going to be able to land somewhere over in this area. Or hopefully not on these mountains, but you never know. Okay, let's go ahead and time accelerate up to space. And I'm not going to bother with an inclination change, as it's not really going to matter. The only time it really would is if I could sort of safely land near our launch site. But periaps of 32 kilometers puts us basically right at somewhere along the coast. Okay, and we do have power, so here's to the actual landing. It's kind of amazing how little of Kerbin you actually see just from trying to land near the Space Center to get back most of your science, most of your funds. All of the early craft, of course, are going to be aiming for water for their water landings. Any sort of space plane, basically you have one of two options for sort of landing back at base. And then all of the science is pretty much done on the home continent. So the Space Center is here-ish. So you've got mountains, grasslands, highlands here. Then you fly north for your Arctic stuff, but that's, I mean, realistically, you're only seeing about 1/8 of the planet. So it's kind of nice to be able to get out and see different things. So the only other disadvantage to basically bringing back the entire Minmus part of the vessel is that the staging at this point is horribly broken. I've got all of the decouplers still in place, and at this point it would be sort of a waste to drop them, so I'm going to have to manually trip all the parachutes. And the other thing I need to do is fire the engines before they get too hot. Okay, so we are safely cooling off. So this thing's going to be sort of, well, literally rocketing in at Mach. I have no idea what it's at this point. Also, here's to hoping that we don't crash again. In fact, what I need to do is alright, I'm going to be looking at my flight and my memory usage at the same time. Luckily, that's one thing that the manned, or that the any of our manned flights have never had to deal with. Oh yes, we've run out of this arbitrary memory resource. the vessels just kind of suddenly stops doing anything. Okay, so 800-ish meters a second. I don't want to open the parachutes above 500, I don't think. Although, let's see, thrust to weight of greater than 1. Let's go ahead and open up as much drag as possible. And log temperature, flying over grasslands. Because we are retaining our landing gear, or landing legs rather, okay, and unfortunately, it's actually going to be enough. Deploy this one also, and deploy that one also. So now all we have to do is basically point up, and we're good. So because we have landing legs still in place, they are going to be able to, or rather they will, increase our maximum impact velocity from 5 or 6 to, I think 20 might be a little high, but 10 would be safe. Okay, so parachutes are open. So despite having quite a bit heavier vessel returning, we do have landing legs, so everything works out nicely. And I'm at 3,600 megs used. And it is looking like it is actually just a 32-bit memory issue that's causing the crashes. So with that said, I'm going to see about finding some memory reducers or something along those lines for later on, especially once I get the excuse me, hiccups. Once I get other missions running simultaneously, that is going to start to chew into the memory a little bit, and something that would probably be best to have not happen. Okay, temperature scan from the grasslands, crew report, cancel, let's EVA, and of course I don't have the ladder invented yet. Oh yes, we have all this fancy rocketry stuff. We haven't invented the basic step ladder. Anyway, crew report, there we go, and let's go ahead and I'm actually not going to do that. I can do that with an aircraft. Okay, that was fun and exciting. Let's go ahead and recover this. Okay, it should be quick saved. So, recover vessel. And there's a crash. Okay, the video is actually at almost 25 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. When we come back, I will have the results of this science mission. So, until then, this has been KSP. Until next time, fly safe.